One of the most infamous and extreme cults in modern history, People's Temple, came to global attention after the deaths of nearly 1,000 of its members at the same time. The movement was founded in the United States during the 1950s, a period marked by intense racial segregation and social inequality. Its founder, Jim Jones, was born in 1931 in the U.S. and presented himself as a religious leader and a civil rights activist. Unlike mainstream churches of the time, he claimed to promote racial equality, help the poor, and embrace people who had been marginalized by society. In its early years, Jones's sermons closely resembled traditional Christian teachings. He emphasized justice, sharing, and social solidarity, organized free meal programs, and provided assistance to the elderly and the homeless. For this reason, People's Temple was initially perceived not as a cult, but as a church focused on social justice. It became a refuge especially for Black communities, the poor, lonely individuals, and people who felt alienated from the system. The structure began to deteriorate when Jim Jones moved beyond the role of a religious leader. Over time, religious language faded from his sermons, and he started portraying himself as a chosen or unique figure with absolute authority. He intervened directly in members' personal lives, learned intimate details about them, and used this information to strengthen their loyalty. The message that he knew them better than their own families gradually took hold. At this stage, People's Temple ceased to function as a church and transformed into a closed, leader-centered organization. Absolute obedience was expected, criticism was labeled as betrayal, and those who wanted to leave were intimidated. By the late 1960s, Jones sought to expand his influence through political connections and public speeches, positioning himself as an indispensable figure for society. As media reports and complaints from former members increased, his attitude toward the outside world became increasingly hostile. He repeatedly claimed that the government intended to destroy the group. As a solution, he proposed relocating the members to a completely isolated settlement outside the United States. This idea was presented as a way to build a more just and equal society, and many followers saw it as a path to salvation. The end of People's Temple came in the late 1970s in Guyana, South America, where an isolated settlement called Jonestown was established. This location was deliberately chosen to cut members off from the outside world and place them under total control. Over time, the severing of family ties, constant propaganda, fear-based rhetoric, and the leader's absolute authority reached their most extreme form within the settlement. As criticism from the outside intensified, some families and officials traveled to Jonestown to investigate conditions firsthand. This visit further increased internal tensions and reinforced Jones's claim that the outside world was planning to destroy them. In the atmosphere of crisis that followed, a mass tragedy occurred in which a large number of members lost their lives. In 1978, the visit of a U.S. congressman to Jonestown and the attempt by several members to leave the settlement marked a turning point. On the same day, Jim Jones convinced the community that they were about to carry out a so-called revolutionary act. Members were given a poisoned drink. This event is widely regarded not as a voluntary collective decision, but as the result of intense psychological pressure, fear, and coercion. Attempts to escape were reportedly prevented, and armed guards were present. One of the most tragic aspects was that many children also lost their lives. In total, more than 900 people died. After the incident, Jim Jones also died. Jonestown became one of the largest mass tragedies caused by a cult in modern history. The event affected not only the members of the community, but also those from outside who had tried to investigate and mediate, creating a profound shock worldwide. Subsequent investigations closely examined the system of control Jones had built, including isolation, fear-based manipulation, and a cult of personality. The most lasting impact of Jonestown was a fundamental change in how cults are viewed globally. The dangerous combination of a charismatic leader, a closed community, and the suppression of criticism became clearly visible. Today, Jonestown is still studied in sociology, psychology, and political science as a powerful example of how individuals can gradually lose their autonomy within such structures.